Not from terrorists, per se, but from all the Jason Stathams and Vin Diesels of the world. And while I'm at it, most of the Marvel and f***ing DC misfits of a monopolized action-adventure movie world that's mostly filled with frauds. So, let's get together. I'll explain, and hopefully we'll have a few laughs. Now, I know it's a bit of a cliche to say that every generation seems to think that the next is the one to bring everything crashing down, that the new kids on the block are, too entitled, too lazy, they have no work ethic, no attention span. Little minds that think they're big and, in the context of what we're talking about here, collectively lower the standards for quality entertainment. Yes, I know it's a bit of a cliche, like I just said, but in the case of the evolution of the action-adventure genre, I think it's very true. I mean, you have to remember, in our day we had Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, Stallone, men that define the word man in all its beautifully archaic bravado. The greatest bodybuilder of all time, a karate expert / pure sex on the dance floor kickboxer, and a porn star. Now fast forward a couple decades, and who's replaced those giants of the action movies that were so sacred to kids like us growing up? This? 40 stories of sheer adventure. Really? Them? Even this guy? Not to mention all the Hollywood pretty boy putzes that are crossfitting and weighing their way into a few glam muscles to play the next shitty Marvel movie character that'll automatically get suspiciously good reviews probably. I mean, I kind of like comic book movies too, but come on, man. They're not all good. And for action movies, this f***ing Fast and the f***ing Furious shit, for God's sake, it's Point Break, only way dumber. Just keep your CGI, give me the regular wired stunt work, practical effects. Give me Dr. Jones, Riggs, Murtaugh, Rambo, Dutch, or even f***ing John Matrix. Come on, Riggs! And who was naming Arnold's characters, by the way? I mean, some of the new guys get passes, but... And I would still take any one of the old guard over the new any day. Including Seagal. Just for kicks and giggles. Hello. And I'll admit it, not every action star of our heyday walked out of flames with roided muscles and had this air of invincibility about them. There was another kind of action hero that was born back then, one that no one could have seen coming. Back in 1988, Hollywood gave us a grounded, kind of relatable action hero to associate with. One that panicked, bled a lot, showed fear, and was just awesome. 80s movie deity John McTiernan gave us a milestone based on a 1979 novel called Nothing Lasts Forever, which was actually a sequel to a 1966 novel called The Detective, which inspired the 1968 Sinatra movie centering around the character named Joseph Leland? No! John McClane, the everyman who just happened to be forced into fighting terrorists / exceptional thieves, shooting blowing up, and cracking jokes along the way.
Welcome to the party, pal!
Bruce Willis's career-defining role besides Hudson Hawk. I'm kidding, but come on, it's not that bad of a flick. The guy from Moonlighting who turned action star? What? Yeah! When I say Die Hard, you better think Bruce Willis. When I say Bruce Willis, you better think Die Hard. Babe, what's the best Bruce Willis movie? Go. Come on. Bruce Willis, best movie. Go. Now. Come on. Come on.
Die Hard?
Yeah. John McClane, a revolutionary character. and in a film that revolutionized a subgenre of action film. Die Hard perfected a formula of bad guys, one or limited number of good guys, guns, and most importantly, an isolated, confined setting. It was a formula so celebrated that it became the Cliff Notes pitch for countless other films. A running joke we all told when describing action movies back in the day. We had Die Hard on a boat, Die Hard on a train, Die Hard on a mountain, Die Hard on a stadium, Die Hard on a f***ing plane with snakes. We had good and bad knockoffs abound through the 80s and 90s and beyond. I mean, this film was everything to me and my brother, and a lot of our friends too growing up. So much, in fact, that we actually made sequels, like our own sequels to the movies, because we couldn't wait for the actual sequels to come out. I mean, we had toy guns, a camcorder, and a confined setting. Why not? Die Hard in a suburban home. Eventually, sequels did get made. The second and third movies held their own respectively. Die Hard at an airport, trying oh so hard to feel like the original, and Die Hard in NYC, which somehow felt fresh and still managed to feel confined and on point with the established formula. No, the fourth and fifth movies don't count. Seeing what they did to John McClane over the latter part of the franchise perfectly summarizes why I turn and run towards yesterday. So everything that made us really respond to McClane. McClane! Let's make him superhuman, able to take out helicopters with cars and jets with trucks. Take away his fear and make him act like a guy who woke up saying, well, I guess I'll save the world again. Slowly building tension and genuine suspense. Just hit him with, redundant, chaotic action set pieces that fill out the runtime over places where a plot should have been happening. So just make everything as frenetic as possible, because today's audiences have the attention span of a goldfish. It's the age of excess, and it's got side effects. The scrolling and streaming. There's too many choices, and I don't have enough time to see everything. And you better overstimulate my base senses immediately. It's just a culture that's up and ruined so many things that I love. Oh, and the villains. Okay, Timothy Olyphant, you deserve to bump shoulders with the Gruber brothers. Please, you even pale in comparison to the naked Tai Chi guy from Die Hard 2. And who is the bad guy in the fifth one? Does anyone even remember? The Last Boy Scout was even more of a Die Hard movie than Die Hard 5, Die Live Hard Frying. A Good Day to Die Hard. Shame on you, Bruce! Okay, I'm tumbling down the wrong rabbit hole here. Die Hard, a little renegade action flick that became the pillar of our childhood. A movie that I personally still go back to for comfort and thrills. Had there been action figures back in the day that, promoted the film, I would have probably gone crazy for them. But I guess the R rating and the less than appropriate material for kids kept merchandising to a minimum. Since then, thanks to aging retro junkies like myself and the Marcus trend of indulging us, we've gotten a few odds and ends. I've never even played this. I just really wanted a mini Hans. And of course, back in the day, they had video games. So let's start with Die Hard for the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. Released by Activision in 1991. This is a top-down, third-person shooter. Exploring all the different floors of the Nakatomi Tower, all while trying to dodge a storm of little white pixelated bullets. It's really hard. I die every 24 seconds, 17 seconds actually. It's overpriced, but I needed to have it. So now we got Die Hard Trilogy. This game I go back to a lot. 3 different games.
You surprised me
3 different films. Die Hard 1, 2, and 3. Die Hard 1 is the only real good part of the game. The other 2 kind of suck. Driving.
No! Yeah!
first-person rail shooter. Maybe they don't suck per se, but they're really basic bullshit. So Die Hard 1. Discovering and beating different levels of the Nakatomi Towers. Garage level up to the top of the building. Fun factor. Fun factor is big with this one. Just run and gun. You can't beat that. Pickups, weapons, machine guns, explosive shotguns. You shoot and just oceans of blood. Awesome. Sound effects. It's not Bruce Willis that's talking, but it's close enough. The music's amazing. And then we have this one that came out, I don't know, 4 years later for no reason. It's the same game as this, just maybe a little bit better graphics, a little more polished. But there's puzzles in it. There's puzzles. Like, since when does John McClane have to figure out a red opens up this door, blue opens up this door, green? It isn't an asylum. There's no asylum. It's Die Hard. He's not in an insane asylum. There's no hospitals. Looking back, are these games objectively great games? No. But that's not really why I still play them, is it? The real why is visceral. This loading screen. This level select screen. And this music. They're all triggers for me. Ricochet me right back to my teenage years. Oh, God. It's like nostalgic ASMR. Well, there you have it. The Die Hard video games. Well, there's one more you didn't see, because I sold it. Die Hard Arcade for the Sega Saturn. That's a big one. That's a great game. I sold that. Video games based on a trilogy of movies as iconic as any of the 80s and 90s. Cherished relics of a genre that's all but extinct. In a manner of speaking. A cinematic world where men shoot guns with unlimited ammo and outleap giant mushroom cloud fireballs, rescue innocent bystanders, kidnap family members, and of course, helpless women. Tropes of an outdated movie culture oozing with toxic masculinity. That kind of hero's time it's over. And if you don't believe me, well, then watch any of the Expendables movies. They're cool for about 30 seconds, and then they're just sad. The great action stars of our time just reduced to playing parodies of themselves. No. Their time is over. And that's a good thing. Oh, the movie landscape has evolved for the better in many ways. More important ways. But ignorances of the time aside, to me, action movies of the 80s and 90s are just better movies than the fleeting equivalents of today in terms of tension, suspense, engagement, pacing, and plain old thrills. Sometimes it feels like all we're left with these days is spectacle, and that's not enough. What is this? Vin got stuck in the Matrix? It's the worst film franchise. It's because of like this that I don't feel too guilty about retreating to the films of my past so obsessively. Not just for a refresher of one of the best action films of all time, but to relish in the memories of the times and in the places of where I watched Die Hard. Well, not for the 100th time, but maybe the 3rd or the 4th. In a cozy, simpler world of the late 80s, where the kid version of me could not have been happier than when I was nestled into a worn-out couch, eating a bowl of Cocoa Puffs, just shrouded in darkness, watching HBO late at night when everyone else in the house fell asleep. And seeing that 747 touchdown, John McTiernan's name fade up on the screen, get that instant rush of elation and solace. And you could stay up and finish the entire movie and sleep in the next day because you were a kid, you had no responsibilities. You got to live in the moment. Your future was just this thing you didn't have to worry about because it was filled with infinite potential and your dreams. And you'd get to them eventually, but For now, just relax and enjoy the movie. Dreams, infinite potential. But for now, just finish watching the movie. It's fine. So, if for some insane reason you haven't seen it, or just maybe haven't seen it in years,
Just do your civic duty for the Gen Xers.
and keep the legendary status of the original John McClane adventure alive, even if it's not Christmas, or...
Die Hard is not a Christmas.
you, Bruce. I'll decide that myself. Fuck you, Bruce. Fuck you, Bruce. I'll decide that shit. And fuck. Hold on, one more. Fuck you, Bruce. And fuck you, Bruce. I'll decide that shit for myself. Oh, and fuck you, Bruce. I'll decide that shit for myself. Oh, and fuck you, Bruce. And fuck you. Oh, okay, that's enough.